Hey everybody, this is Sam Ballard from the RPM Podcast. Planning an event and looking for a great time? Go no further than RC2U Racing for all your portable family entertainment. RC2U turns any occasion into a competition. Check them out online at rc2uracing.com.
All right, we're back. We're on segment 3 now of the RPM Podcast at the Motorsports Show in Oaks, Pennsylvania. Right now we have on a special guest, Scott Adams and his daughter, Mackenzie Adams. Scott Adams has been racing in the Pennsylvania tracks for many, many years, mainly Evergreen. He also owns Himmer Graphics, which makes everybody's race cars look awesome up in this area. And even down at Wall Stadium, he's been doing vinyl graphics and wraps for a very long time. Scott, a lot of questions that I get asked when people talk about Himmer Graphics. Where did the name Himmer come from?
Well, with my daughter Mackenzie sitting right here, when her mom was pregnant with her, and we didn't know whether she was a boy or a girl, him or her, and that's what we referred to the baby as.
Himmer?
Yep.
That's funny. That's good. See? Now
How does that make you feel?
Special, I guess.
What kind of special?
I don't know.
Hey, you know what? You learn a lot on this podcast, don't you? That was something I always really wondered about. So that's pretty cool. That's a cool story.
Most people that don't know me always thought that was my last name before they knew me. So
yeah, okay, that's cool. That's a cool story. I mean, I really went out and named my business something really crazy. I mean, I named it Riggleman Towing. Yeah. I mean, my last name is Riggleman, and I tow cars. So I really put a lot of thought into my business name. Well, you're here today. You're here with the Evergreen Raceway booth, and you also have your Himmer graphic set up here. We just picked up the Evergreen schedule, and it looks great. I mean, it really does. It's packed, you know. A lot of racing going on at Evergreen this year.
Where's Ted Groh?
Yeah, Ted didn't make it here today?
No, with the weather, he didn't come down.
Yeah,
okay.
We usually have Ted on the show to go over the schedule with us, but since he's not here, we asked you to come on, and you're nice enough to do it with us. What are your plans at Evergreen this year? Are you going to run the whole schedule there this year?
I myself won't be running the whole schedule, but both my kids do. Mackenzie runs. She'll be running full time in the 4-cylinders, and we added quite a few junior 4-cylinder races this year. And my son, he's 10, and he'll be running the full schedule with the junior 4-cylinders.
So junior is an age restriction on the 4-cylinders?
Yep, it's ages 10 to 15.
Okay.
And obviously a lower experience class.
Okay.
Mackenzie, I got to tell you, I'm pretty jealous that you're racing at 12 years old. You know, I had to wait until I was 18 before I could race, so you got it pretty good up there. But to tell you the truth, Pennsylvania always has been a little bit more lenient than New Jersey with their age restriction.
Yeah, you look back at Ryan Priest.
A lot of people would venture to Pennsylvania to go race because they had to wait for their age group to race in the state they live in. I even raced, believe it or not, my very first race ever was at age 16 at Pocono on the 3/4 mile during Race of Champions weekend. You think I picked a tough race to go to or right for my first?
Yeah.
Well, we went there with the street stock. I knew I didn't have a chance of qualifying. There was about 100 cars there fighting for 40 spots. But I was allowed to race in Pennsylvania at 16. We had built a car and getting it ready for when I turned 18 or well, so we took it to Pocono. And I got to practice all day, and I got to run the qualifying races and have some fun. See, down by us, we have the quarter midgets in the Sunday series with the go-karts and stuff. So a lot of kids start off there, and then they move up to the full-size cars. Mackenzie, did you race anything smaller before you raced the 4-cylinder cars like go-karts?
I raced slingshots.
Okay, that's cool. Where did you do that at?
I raced at Snydersville, and I raced some at Hamlin.
Oh, yeah, they're two great tracks up. Snyderville's the track you passed.
I was passing a few weeks ago, or just before Christmas, and I was talking to him about it. It's like, Scott, tell me about this freaking Snydersville that I see in here. What's the deal there? And slingshots, as I mentioned earlier in our last segment, are my favorite out of the indoor races because they're just the most competitive.
We like the slingshots at the indoor races like at Atlantic City because we just think that scale car fits better on that track.
Oh, yeah.
Where the TQs are just way too fast, you know what I'm saying?
I've done the slingshots the last few years at Atlantic City, and it's a lot of fun. You know, it's like indoor racing. It's a lot of luck also, but
yeah, luck of the draw too, just to
Right.
get a good starting spot,
Right.
a heat race spot. Are you doing it this year?
No, I'm sitting out this year. I'm just going to go and have some fun.
Do you still have the slingshot cars?
Nope. We actually just sold the second one, so we're full-time 4-cylinders now. We got both them guys have a car, and we got a backup car ready for them. And
before we get to the Evergreen Raceway, can you tell us a little bit about that Snydersville? I've always seen that racetrack like traveling up to Mountain Speedway and Evergreen Speedway and the Poconos. You always pass it. What's on Route 33 there?
right. Yep.
It's basically a go-kart track, right? They race dirt. It's dirt, right?
It's dirt, yeah, but it's set up for go-karts, so it's real smooth, you know. And
Okay.
they do a good job. Not like most of the slingshot tracks are a little, I wouldn't say rough, but they're bigger tracks. They're not set up for karts, but Alex and them guys, they do a good job keeping that track nice, and it was a good track to start on. They don't get a lot of slingshots there.
Okay.
And the way we started, we were actually headed to Hamlin because it's only 10 minutes from our house. One weekend they rained out, and it was one of their first weekends since we got the slingshots, and we ended up just heading down there. But they had fun, they liked it, and then they wanted to go back there. So
That's 2 tracks in our area I've never been to. I've never been to Snydersville. I know Paul Hartwick took his kid there a couple of times, so I got, at least did the live feed on Facebook when they were racing, so I got to see some of the racing there. Hamlin's another track I've never been to. Exactly where is Hamlin Speedway?
Hamlin, it's right outside my house. I would say it's 20 minutes from Scranton, right off of Interstate 84.
Okay. And what size track is that? Is that like a 5th mile or something?
I'm not really sure. I'm going to say it's comparable to Kutztown.
Okay.
Maybe a little longer straightaway.
And they only race small cars in there, not even like 4-cylinders or anything like that?
No 4-cylinders. Yeah, it's 600s, 270s, slingshots. But they pack that place. They get a lot of cars.
How long has Hamlin Speedway been there?
I'm not sure. It was there well before I was there. It's been there for quite a while.
Same with Snydersville too. That track's been there a while too, right?
Yeah.
I guess Snydersville probably benefited from Borgers, which is right down the street when they closed. I'm assuming some of the people from Borgers went over to Snydersville and raced. It's a shame that Borgers Speedway is just sitting there empty like that. Have you ever raced anything there?
I've been there, but I've never raced myself.
I tell you what, I had to pick up a car about 6 months ago, I guess, right by Pocono, right by the big track. And I always heard about that Borgers Speedway. I wanted to ride by and check it out. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool little asphalt track. It was right behind the guy's house and everything, It's a shame that it's sitting there closed like that.
Yeah, I was there when it was dirt. I've never seen it when it was asphalt.
Well, the story I got, it was dirt, and then the neighbors were complaining because there's like 3 houses next door, and they were complaining about the dirt. So the guy spent the money and paved it and actually built up a pretty good asphalt series going on there, and they were doing very well. And then so there was no dust because now the track's asphalt, and then people started complaining about the noise.
You can't win.
Yeah, the guy couldn't win, so I guess he finally gave up the fight. It's a shame it's sitting there. All right, so we'll move over to the Evergreen stuff. I mean, they're starting in March. March 29th, they're actually having a small and big car enduro. It's going to be Scott had actually messaged my wife Nancy saying, hey, we're opening it up to the Outlaw Enduro Series rules, which I think is a great idea because the Outlaw Enduro Series is very popular in this area. They got to establish amount of cars. We get 25, 20 to 30 cars at Grandview. So I think you could draw some of the cars from the Outlaw Enduro Series to come to Evergreen. So even with the 4-cylinder guys, too, I think they would venture over there, too. They're doing something a little unique. I'm not sure how it's going to work out, but Evergreen recently put in an inner loop for kind of like a road course type racing, and they're going to run the cars on the inner loop, which is pretty cool. It's something different. I think it'll be a little bit better for the 4-cylinders than it will be the 8-cylinders because the 4-cylinders are a little bit smaller. That inner loop's kind of tight, right, Scott?
It is tight. Now, the main reason for the inner loop, Jason's having a lot of success with the drift cars.
Yes.
And they have two tracks set up. They have the back set of the pits. They close off. They'll have a track there for the drift cars, and then they'll have a second one where you use the main track. And the drift guys set up with him and made a deal. And I believe there's still going to be additions. For anybody who's been to the track, they know the horseshoe off the back of the track if you need to pull off during the race. It used to be paved years and years ago. It broke apart and turned into dirt. But
there was also like a chicane between 1 and 2 at one time, wasn't there, for
Yeah.
go-kart racing back in the day?
Yep, and I believe that's in the plans right now, is a piece off of the front stretch and then a piece off of that right in between 1 and 2, just to give the drift guys more room to slide around.
Now, I know at the end of last year they had an Enduro, because I actually went up to Bethel Speedway for their November Fest, and they were having a open competition Enduro on Sunday, and Evergreen actually had an Enduro on Saturday, and a lot of the guys that were there on Sunday had been at Evergreen the Saturday before, and there was talk about them running the inner loop then, but they said it got too dark out, and there wasn't really lighting in the inner loop yet, and it got a little wet too. It was so it wasn't quite ready to be raced on that night.
Yeah, I think the biggest factor there, Jason said, was that was just paved the week before.
You don't want to tear
and
it up.
it was full of water.
You got to let it cure a little bit.
Even if they pumped it out, that would be moving all over the place and breaking apart.
So they actually abandoned the inner loop that night. Has anything raced on the inner loop yet, or no?
The drift cars have been on it.
They have been on it?
They were on it the first weekend they paved it. They were on it, and then once the water was there, during that week, that's when they decided, they didn't want to put that money into it and have it bust apart.
Now, Scott, I raced with you up in the Enduros up there quite a bit, and you were mainly a 4-cylinder Enduro guy up there when I was racing the 8-cylinders. How do you feel about the inner loop? If you were still racing Enduros, would you want to do the inner loop, or would you want to be on the traditional oval?
I really want to give it a shot, and I might be in that race.
Yeah.
Depending on how things go, but it is tight. I've driven my truck around there just when I was driving around. It is tight. I'm sure it's going to be a good place for some pile-ups. But
you know what? I am willing to give it a try, and here's why. I never really liked road course racing to begin with, and then they had, I don't know if you were at this one or not, Scott, but a few years ago when Wall was closed, I think it was 2008, they actually had an Enduro race at Englishtown at Raceway Park on their road course. Did you go to that?
I didn't, but I'm a big fan of road course. I love go-karting on road course, and I'd really like to give it a shot.
I tell you what, I never liked road course racing. I never understood it. And then that day I got invited by Kevin Ayers and Stu Pear because it was teams of 3. It was a long Enduro race. It was like a 4-hour Enduro, so you had teams of 3. They called me and invited me to be the 3rd driver, so I showed up that day and I gave it a try. And I tell you what, by the 3rd lap on a road course, I was hooked. It was fun, man. It was total fun. So, when you first message and say, hey, good news, guys, we're going to the Outlaw Enduro Series rules, I'm like, I'm going to make every race at Evergreen that I can with the big cars. And then when the press release came out, it said, on the inner loop. I'm like, yeah, I kind of lost a little bit of interest. But then when I got thinking about it, I'm like, why not try it? It might be fun.
It's something different.
Yeah.
It takes just a little more skill involved, And it's not a long road course. When you look at a road course, there's just so much room for error. Where, just on the oval, you get the 2 corners down, you're good.
And I really think, too, by them running the inner loop, it might other guys that don't have quite built good Enduro cars might want to come, because it's kind of like an equalizer between a well-built Enduro car and not such a well-built Enduro car.
Well, so I look at it almost like, remember that Enduro race at Wall when they stopped it halfway, flipped a coin or whatever, and had everybody
go the other
backwards
way.
on the inner oval? And a lot of guys were unhappy about it, but that was another equalizer because nobody's car was set up for that.
Well, that's just it. If I do go to this Evergreen race, I'm taking my dirt Outlaw Enduro Series car, and I was going to change a few things to make it handle better on asphalt. But now with the road course inner loop thrown into it, why even change it? Just go there with what you got and see how it works. You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty cool. Man, they do have one heck of a schedule.
And I already got a few guys telling me they're actually building automatic cars just to take out the factor of having to downshift through the turn.
See, now I was thinking the opposite. My car is an automatic, and I thought maybe a stick would have an advantage, because when you get into that inner loop and as tight as you're saying it is, you think you'd want to downshift. You know what I'm saying?
You could use that for partial braking, and you'd already be in higher RPMs to accelerate right off, possibly.
You did mention, because that inner loop is so tight, that it is a place where there might be some accidents and it gets tight and there might be some crashes. I'm not worried about the crash factor, but it's going to be hard on equipment. In general, brakes.
Oh, yeah.
The rear ends, the transmissions, just from slowing down and accelerating. but let's give it a shot, man. It might be fun. You know what I'm saying? It's there. I guess the drift guys paid for it to get paved, so let's use it. You know what I'm saying?
Everybody's at the same disadvantage.
The drift guys do real good with their technology, where they show up on Facebook and Facebook Live, and they have the drones and all that stuff. So there's quite a bit of YouTube footage of the drift guys doing the drifting. Drifting is not my thing. I don't understand it. I don't know what the appeal for it is, but it is popular with the kids now. And if Evergreen can make some money with the drift people and help keep the oval track that we race on open, perfect. It's great. Have you ever been to a drift event there?
I've dropped into a few, and it's a different set of people, you know.
Yeah.
It's just not the same crew we're used to.
And which is good. It's another avenue of money that can come into the racetrack from different people. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, and it's something they need a place to do it, you know, and just like us, you know. But you know, it's benefits Jason a lot. You know, it's they use the track, you know, and they packed that place. I mean, there was well over 100 cars when I was there. You know, there's no payout. You know, it's a good benefit for the track.
Now is this Evergreen's drift event, like they have like the rules and all that stuff, or is it like a drift club comes in there and does it?
It is more somebody have formed their own club called Drift Evergreen, and I know there's different drift clubs, you know, that rent tracks and what actually happens, Drift Evergreen doesn't let anybody else come in and rent the track. It's their event, you know, so you have to come to a Drift Evergreen event.
Right. Okay, that sounds cool.
I think that the drifting in general, regardless if it's Formula D or any other series or anything like that, they're kind of setting a good example social media-wise that I think a lot of other tracks need to follow just for oval track racing. By putting a lot more out there between the video and stuff. I want to do a drone shot of the factory stock race. Right. Tell me that wouldn't be cool.
I know. And that's what the drift guys do. They're into technology and the tuning of the car. And there's drones every time at a drift show.
And I'm sure you've seen some of the promotional videos we put out for King of the Green with the drone video. And those were done by the drift guys. You know, we asked them to come over and do it, and they, you know, really enjoyed, because it was a different kind of racing than they're used to. So, you know, they came over and did that, and, you know, now they're one of their main photographers. He's coming on board next year to be the Evergreen photographer. And
sounds like a perfect marriage, man. I mean, and let's face it, a track like Evergreen or short tracks in general, you can't survive making money one day a week, 30 weeks out of the year anymore. You need to be open more than one day a week. So this brings in, you know, other dates for the track to make money, and that's exactly what they need. I mean, we're getting that at Wall where we have the Sunday series, so now they make not a lot of money. It's not a home run, don't get me wrong, but, you know, at least on Sunday they're making a little something. You know what I'm saying? It's better than the track sitting there empty. And speaking of Sundays, that's what I was getting to next. Evergreen went off their last year they ran on Friday nights during the summer, but they ran Sundays at the beginning of the year and the end of the year. They would switch to Friday nights because it was too hot to race during the day. This year they're going straight through on Sundays, which I think is a great idea. And here's why. I have a factory stock. I'm dedicated to Wall Stadium to run my factory stocks on Saturday nights. So if you're having a factory stock race on a Friday night, I'm afraid to bring my car up there because I got to save it for Saturday night. But now, back in the day, my dad would run the street stocks at Wall Stadium on a Saturday night. He'd have a good night. The car's still running good. We got done early at Wall Stadium. The car's already loaded up. We'd wake up in the morning. We'd shoot up to Evergreen to go race.
Right.
So now me and Nancy can do that. We can run Wall Stadium on a Saturday night. Say the car gets out of there one piece. The race is over by 10 o'clock. The car's already loaded on the truck and trailer. I can wake up 8 o'clock in the morning and say, Nancy, let's go race Evergreen. We can jump up there. We can be there by noon. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's something I'm willing to go do now on Sundays is go up there to race Evergreen on a Sunday.
And one of the big things we talked about is most people that come to Evergreen, it's a travel. You know, there's not a big local crowd.
You're right.
And Friday nights are tough. You know, by the time you got out of work, you'd almost have to take your car to work to leave to get there on time. And
it's a 3-hour drive for me if I was going to try to make that.
Yeah.
I had to come right after school, so I'd be right out of school, and then we left to go.
The kids got off the bus, and we're in the truck, and we're on the road.
We're ready to leave.
But here's the one good thing about racing on a Friday, because when I was a kid, we used to race New Egypt Speedway on Friday nights. if that's the only track you race at and you race on Friday nights, you got the weekend to yourself.
Right.
Yeah. So there is a perk to it. You know what I'm saying? But I'm glad they moved to Sundays because, like I said, it kind of reminds me of when I was a kid and my dad would race. There was times we'd leave Wall Stadium and we'd go right up to Evergreen and race. So it's cool that they're going back on Sundays. I know people listening right now might be like, well, no, Saturday's the perfect night to race. Yes, Saturday is the perfect night to race, but out of respect to Mahoney Valley, which is only like 25 or 30 miles down the road from Evergreen, they have the traditional Saturday night, so they're trying to stay off their day of racing, you know. And I have a feeling now that you'll get more Mahoney guys too, because now their point race is over on a Saturday night, and then they can race Evergreen on Sunday. Where Fridays you're hesitant to go because you need that car for your home track, you know. So was there a lot of discussion on that to switch to Sundays, or was it pretty cut and dry?
There was a short time. I knew during last year, you know, it wasn't a great year. We started out with rain out after rain out.
You guys got killed with rainouts up there, and I really feel bad for the management team at Evergreen Raceway because you guys have great race events planned, and it would literally be beautiful all week. Come race day, you guys, it was raining up there. You guys got killed with rain up there.
You know, obviously the biggest problem with Sunday is it's going to be hot during the summer.
Yeah.
But I think sticking with one day and, you know, just the traveling aspect, I think it's going to work out better.
Now on a Sunday show, what time will they start? It's right here, right? Sunday start times. Is this the drift?
I think,
or is it
practice, I believe, at 2:30, and then, I think it's 12:30 and then 2. Yeah, I believe racing starts at 2. Yeah.
Okay. See, that's good. Pits open at 10:30 a.m. Grandstands open at 12. Racing starts at 2. So most likely you're done by 5:30, 6 o'clock, and on your way home. You know what I'm saying? But there's going to be hot days. But you know what? There's days at Wall Stadium it's hot too. So what's the difference? We get to Wall Stadium early anyway. So
that's why you run a screen for a windshield.
Yeah, get rid of the windshield, put the screen in. All right, and the divisions up at Evergreen are the Tour Modifieds, the Evergreen Modifieds. The Evergreen Modifieds, just so people know, they're a little bit different than the Tour Modified. They're a little bit more affordable. They run a crate engine or maybe a 2-barrel motor. Do they still run cheaper tires up there, like the skinnier tires?
They run the same 10-inch tire that the late models run.
Okay, so they're not quite on the big modified tires.
No.
And that's good for the track because then they can sell tires to the late models and the modifieds, the same tire. You know what I'm saying? They're going back with the late model division, which I know is true to Jason's heart because that's what he raced.
Yeah, I think, you know, we were going to do a few more sport mod races this year, but Plum Air came on board. And as a pretty big sponsor, and you know that was their deal. They wanted the late models on.
I tell you what, that's attracting some pretty good attention from even the guys down by us in the Wall Stadium area, and even guys out on Long Island are talking about that 6-race deal you guys have. It's called the Plum Air Late Model Series.
Yeah. That's the six-pack series. You know, with the 6 races, and I'm hoping it'll take off just like the modifieds. You know, where, you know, the modifieds aren't weekly anymore, you know, and it seems to attract, you know, more cars. We've had a full field almost, you know, every modified race by not getting into that weekly grind. So, you know, I'm hoping that'll work out for the late models.
So the modifieds still have like a 7-race schedule here?
Right.
Okay, and it seems to work. It kind of turns out to like once a month, you know what I'm saying, which people like, or once every 3 weeks or something like that. And you are right. Like a lot of people did show up for that. You know, they knew it was a 7-race series. A lot of people can afford to do a 7-race series and collect points and you know have a chance to win in a points championship at the end of a 7-race series. And that's what you're doing with the late models. I know Shannon Monjo down by us. He's thinking about doing it. I know I've seen some people out on Long Island saying they're going to come run it too. And here again, because it's on a Sunday. You know, Riverhead races on a Saturday, Wall Stadium runs on a Saturday. They can go up Sunday and do these races. And I think that's a great idea. I also see cone races on their schedule. I love cone races.
Oh, I do too.
I think it's a great format for short track racing. I think it helps mix everything up and make restarts more exciting. Believe it or not, the last 3 years we tried to have a couple cone races in factory stocks, and either that night got rained out or like 3 times in a row, it was a cone race, and we never had a caution. We just went green to checkered, so we never had a chance. This year, finally, we had a cone race where there was a yellow, and I was counting cars, you know, and I'm like, I literally went from 8th to 2nd because everybody pick the bottom and I jump right up top. And you got to weigh it out because I'm like, all right, if Elliott's on the pole and Shannon Maggio's third, and I might lose those spots, but I might be able to fall back into third,
right,
or I might fall back into fourth, but I'm not eighth anymore. You know what I'm saying? So you got to look at it like that. Like, I know some people say, "Oh, I'll jump to the outside now, I can win." You can think that, but you got to. Like, I'll calculate, and I said, well, I'm eighth. I might drop back to fourth, but that's 4 spots. So
you almost have to make sure three or four cars in front of you went to the inside.
Right, yeah. So it's fun. It definitely mixes up. I like to see that they're doing that. They got autograph and camera day, which is awesome. I enjoy that. That's when the cars go on the front straightaway. They call it autograph and camera day. At our track, we call it Fan Fest. That's a throwback, too. I remember being a kid going to autograph and camera day. I guess we should start calling it autograph and cell phone day.
Yeah, right? I was thinking the same thing when Jason put that on the schedule. But I guess that it kind of always was called the same thing. So.
Yeah. All right. The schedule looks great. It's on evergreenracewaypark.com. They're also handing it out here on the show, but by the time you guys hear this, the show will be over. So, go on evergreenracewaypark.com and check it out. There's a little bit something for everybody this year. One thing I guys like you do, I see it's Caitlin's birthday bash this year. Last year it was Ted Grove's birthday bash, where they did the amount of laps was how many years old he was. Do you know who Caitlin is?
Caitlin's Jason's daughter.
Jason's daughter?
Yeah.
How old is she?
I believe she's 9 or 10.
So I hope we have more than 9 or 10 lap races because
I believe they had that race last year too. They set up a bounce house for all the kids.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So they make it like a big birthday party?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. See, I like the Ted thing because he was like the perfect age. He was like 35. So everything was like 35 laps, and then it would be 36 laps, 37 laps, 38 laps. So it was kind of cool, Ted's a little young, so we'll make it a big birthday party.
Or you could add 10 additional laps to the normal feature lane.
Yeah. So that's cool. You have Christmas in July. That's starting to be a big thing at all these racetracks too, and of course King of the Green, which is always a super great event, and it seems like it gets bigger.
They still had weather issues though this year.
Every time, man. I'm telling you, I feel so bad for Jason because he's trying so hard to make it work, and I know he's working on a tight budget. And I've never seen a racetrack in the history of racing get hurt so bad by weather, because that track also has a problem too. Like, it stays wet, even if they have rain like the day before. You
don't get enough sun.
Well, they get the weeping issue where the water comes up through the track.
Right.
That's always makes it tough too. But he's trying. He's definitely trying.
It only works for the January enduros. When you're going to be running in snow anyway.
Yeah, if Jason was here, we'd have to get his.
And there again, that's where the drift guys help out so much. It helps keep the track afloat.
Yeah, without doubt.
And those guys, they run rain or shine. They'll be out there in the pouring rain drifting.
So you're definitely making money no matter what the weather issue is. So Mackenzie, we're going to move over to what you got going on. What is your plans at racing there this year?
Well, last year I got second in points in junior, so I'm going to try to get top 10 in regular 4-cylinder points.
So you won't be racing the junior division, or you will be racing the junior?
I will not.
No. So you're moving up to the regular 4-cylinder division?
Yeah.
She ran most of the regular 4-cylinders along with the juniors this year, and she actually did finish out 10th in the points, in the regular points this year. And so I believe there was only 4 junior races this year.
Okay.
And she had to miss 2. She was on a long vacation, so she ended up missing 2 of the races. But the 2 that she did enter, she won both of those. And I think back-to-back weeks, she finished 3rd in the regular 4-cylinders. So she had some pretty good weeks.
Now, what's the hot ticket in the 4-cylinder division up here? I know everybody down at Wall Stadium, they all switched to the Honda Prelude?
The Prelude got real big. Yeah,
everybody's running. I know you always had a Ford, right?
I did, and I actually had a few years ago when I won the 4-cylinder championship, I had the Prelude.
Yeah, you went to the Prelude too? You had like a Ford Escort or something, didn't you?
I do. I still have the same car. It's still running.
They run pretty good, right?
Yeah, we actually have 3 of them. They're not powerhouses, but they handle good. They're reliable.
I gotta compare backyards between you and Scott.
Yeah, the Celicas are really taking off. The newer Celica GTSs are a good high horsepower motor, and they're doing pretty good.
See, now at Wall Stadium, they actually do research, and say if you show up with a Celica or a Ford Escort, they look up the horsepower and they make it even by adding weight to the higher horsepower
Yeah.
cars. Do they do that at Evergreen?
I was actually, we're back and forth on the tech, with the 4 cylinders. And, some guys, they don't know anything about 4 cylinders.
Right.
I've been around them long enough where I can give some input. And to make it a little easier, what we're doing this year is if you're over 160, factory rated horsepower, you have 2% less on your left side weight. Okay. So anything under 160, I believe it's 56 and 54. I'm not sure what it exactly is, but it's something to make it a little easier than everybody,
It
having
gets
to look up
confusing at Wall
everybody's
Stadium.
weight.
It gets confusing at Wall Stadium. And then another thing they do at Wall Stadium, if a car wins too much, they add more weight to them too. So now they got the penalty for having more horsepower that are getting penalized, and then they start winning more, and they get penalized again for winning too much. So.
You've been down that road, Scott.
Oh yeah, I've been down that road.
And it's hard because it's hard to penalize a guy who can figure out how to set his car up.
Yeah.
Just looking, saying, well, he's got more horsepower. That's why he's doing good.
And what car is Mackenzie running?
Well, this year, Harry O'Neill.
Yes. He
Big,
wins everything
he
up there.
wins, yeah,
He's the one that wins the 4-cylinder Enduro, and then he enters the same car and wins the 8-cylinder Enduro.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we actually bought his weekly car, his championship car.
Okay.
And she'll be running that this year.
And that's a Prelude?
That's a Celica.
A Celica?
Yeah.
Okay. So, man, you got to have like a parts catalog. You got Toyotas, Fords, Hondas.
Like 5 cars or something.
Yeah. Sticking with the Fords was nice. Just like you have a pile of the same car to get the parts off of, and I have a pile of Ford Escort parts.
But yeah, the Ford Escort, is that easier to find than a Celica, or?
I wouldn't say it's easier. It's just I think it's cheaper. They're not as a sought out car.
Yeah, right.
Now I always look at just like you, I'm sure you're on Facebook Marketplace looking up.
My cars are getting
expensive. This is the second time it's come up today.
Looking for the good deal,
Well, when I was racing up there quite a bit in 2013, you were palling around with Larry Spencer a lot. Where's Larry been?
He's pumped out a couple kids.
I
in the
saw
last
that.
few
He's a
years.
baby maker.
Yeah. I believe he's putting a car together for the Enduro. He just sent me actually an Escort, but he's building an automatic. He's not great with the shifting.
Yeah.
So.
See, I'm one of the guys that the reason I stayed away from the 4-cylinder division, everybody thinks I'm a great mechanic because I build good factory stocks and stuff, but that's the only car I know.
Right.
I know the 2-barrel, I know the distributor. Like you give me a car with a computer, I'm kind of useless. You know what I'm saying? So for you to be working on all these types of different race cars, you almost need to be a mechanic. You really, what I'm saying? Or know a mechanic, or at least have a computer to hook to it. You know what I'm saying? Now, do you guys run fuel cells in these cars, or you run the stock tanks?
No, as long as your stock tank is in front of the rear wheels.
Okay.
We just run a stock tank.
So I know down by us, because by law, in the New Jersey law, they had to move the fuel cells, and it's tricky because they're electronic fuel pump. Because most of the time your computer is running the pump and the pressure setting and everything. Yeah,
so.
if your pressure setting wasn't right, the car wouldn't run. So it was a lot harder for the 4-cylinder guys to go to a fuel cell because of the electronic fuel injection. Where me is just with the manual fuel pump, it's easy to do.
Don't tell me. But when I used to bring my Escort down to Wall, I had a fuel cell in it, but it was never hooked up.
That's a good idea. Hey, they just said you have to have a fuel cell. They didn't say how it worked. I never thought about that. So you actually just put one in.
Yeah, it was just a dummy.
That's a good idea, man.
Did you put any fuel in there just for weight?
Yeah. Had fuel
so
in
they
it.
could check it.
Yeah, had blinds going to it. Had fuel in it.
Actually, talking about the rules there, windshields. Do you run the stock windshield? Do you use a Lexan? Do you use screens? What do you do?
I always run a screen or Lexan just because of the weight, just get the weight off top of the car. Mackenzie, she absolutely hates having a windshield. She has to have a screen.
It's way too hot.
She's like Josh.
I like the air coming through.
Yeah, a lot of people do. But you know what? It's funny you say that.
Except when the speedy dry gets kicked up.
I hate that. It hurts your eyes so bad.
Did you ever try a car with a windshield, though?
Yeah, I did. I think the last race I ran, it had a windshield, and I just hated it.
Some people feel claustrophobic with a car with a windshield in it. But when I started racing Nancy, the car had a windshield in it, and it was getting hot, so I think I ran her car somewhere, so I put a screen in it. I said, Nancy, you want me to put the windshield back on or leave the screen in? And she's like, I'll try the screen. But with the screen, it feels like you're going faster. With the windshield, it feels like you're going slower.
Well, I remember 2012 coming down the wall for one of the Neats Enduros, and I believe it was a February race, and it was 15 degrees, and I had my screen in, and I wish I didn't have a screen in.
Well, I just came home from Maine. I raced in the snow, and I was already with the screen in. But I told the guys, I said, listen, that windshield's going to be nice, and you're going to be nice and warm in there, but it's
going to get covered.
It's going to get covered. I said, I had tear-offs on it. I mean, I got out. I looked like a snowman, but I could see the whole race. You know what I'm saying?
Same thing. Well, I froze during that January Enduro at Mountain Evergreen. I did keep a rag so I could wipe my visor.
Well, I was using my right-hand glove, and when I got too wet, I switched to my left-hand glove.
Well, the best part was the announcers were encouraging people to throw snowballs at the cars.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, a smack on my dashboard. I'm like, where did that come from?
I believe Larry Spencer was involved in that.
Yeah, Gino and Larry Spencer were up there saying, throw snowballs at the cars.
Well, you got I think they were going to give away $5 if you made it in Oscar the Grouch's garbage can.
Right. Yeah. TJ Capish always had the garbage can on top of his.
TJ's been running the four-cylinder division up there, right?
Yeah, he just won King of the Green. I believe he finished second points this year.
I seen over the winter on Facebook he is building a brand new car. I don't know if it's for a customer or if it's his own car. Do you know if that's
I believe that's a new car for him. Now, he had an older Celica. Now, the one he just posted, that's the newer Celica GTS. So.
And what's the advantage of the newer Celica over
the horsepower? Big time on the horsepower, yeah. It's probably 40 more horsepower.
Yeah. I wonder if people are going to start running Celicas down by us.
Oh, does Mike Lavery still run up there? He ran one of the winter enduros, and then he's been running the four cylinders at Wall.
He's the blue and yellow 7X.
No, I don't think
it's all. I mean, it's sheet metal. It's beat up. So I mean, you recognize it. I was just curious if he was still up there or making the trip back and forth.
Every year, Josh checks the Evergreen schedule. He wants another winter enduro up there. For some reason, they won't do it anymore.
Yeah, and I was really trying to talk Jason into it this year. And the last few years, it just, the car counts went down. It just kind of made it not worth it.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people.
It's hard to get seats or butts in the grandstands when it's 8 degrees out.
I tell you, the first year, though, they had it. There was a lot of people in the grandstands.
Everybody still wants enduro cars that are gut and go. And they don't want to put any sort of bars or cages in them. And it's just, obviously, insurance-wise and safety-wise, you got to have something.
I got to have a cage.
That's why I like the Outlaw Enduro Series. I like them. It's still an Enduro Series, but there is a lot of good safety.
Yeah, and I'm sure you saw Adirondack just had they're big, and they had over 100 cars, but there again they didn't require you to have any sort of roll cage. And it's just I won't do it anymore.
I like doing the Enduro. I'm on the same boat as you. I like doing the Enduros, but I have to have the safety gear. And I mean, even up at that snow race, I think I was the only one wearing a fire suit, and they were all laughing at me. I'm like, hey, you never know. I don't care that we're driving through snow. We can still catch fire. And
that's also like the was it Hudson not having an ambulance?
Yeah, and then I still wear my Hans device. I'm like, I'm forced to buy a Hans device in New Jersey. I paid $600 for the thing. I don't care if the track says we don't need them. I paid $600 for it. It's safer. I'm going to wear the thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm all about the safety. Me and Nancy have a saying. She doesn't mind me doing enduros. I don't mind her doing enduros, but we won't do a gut and go enduro. And if we do, we're putting a cage in ours. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We call it gut and go to the hospital. That's what we call it.
I think it comes down to a lot of people just don't have the know-how to do it, and they want to just gut that car, and that's because that's all they know.
And which is cool, but you can get hurt. That's the downside of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's not only on you; it's a big liability for the track.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm hoping it goes good for Jason at Evergreen with switching to the Outlaw Enduro Series rules, and maybe he'll get some more support to the point where he can have a January race again. You know what I'm saying?
That you got to invest in some of those ski resort snow machines.
Yeah.
If the snow is not there, it's not the same.
Well, the race I went to Maine, I didn't know anybody up that way, and I didn't know anything about it. And I was watching the weather, and they weren't getting snow, so I was getting my car ready for a dry race because Evergreen would race it if there was snow or not. It was just a January race. And then in the last minute, they got snow up there. And then when I got up there, I'm like, oh, yeah, I switched cars. I was going to bring a different car if the track was going to be dry. And the guy said to me, he said, if the track was dry, you wouldn't be here because we were only going to race if it snowed, you know.
And I believe the same thing with Adirondack. And I think I saw on their Facebook they were actually trucking in the snow and laying it on the track.
And people from down this area were asking me, they were saying to me, they were saying, well, after a few laps, the track, dries out and you start getting a lane of racing. I said, well,
it packs down.
I said, well, first of all, it was 8 inches of snow. So towards the third Enduro, it started getting a lane of asphalt. But under a red condition, they bought a snowplow and started pushing the snow onto the dry part of the track. So I'm like, no, it was a snow race, and they made sure it was a snow race.
I'm sure you remember the mountain Enduro where everybody just kept making the track smaller and
Yes.
smaller and smaller.
Well, that's what happened, too. I thought it was a packed-up lump of snow when I was going through the corners that I was running over, but it stayed there. I'm like, that must be like solid ice. Then I realized it was the curb of the regular racetrack. We were just starting to drive over more and more, because you didn't know where the track was and where the track wasn't.
And then sometimes, as it would wear away, you go, okay, I can go a little bit faster now through this turn. And then the next time you come around, somebody else knocked more snow, and you're going up towards the wall because it was clear the last time.
All right, now, before I let you go here, I know you got to get back over to your booth, but you also have a son that races. Tell us a little bit about him.
Right. He, just like Kenzie, he actually started a little sooner. He was into quarter midgets, and I tried getting Kenzie to start sooner, but she was worried about putting a helmet on and getting all sweaty.
Yeah.
And then once Micah started, then she wanted to do it, and super competitive. So they're hard on each other, and they're always.
Did they race against each other this year in the four-cylinders, or he didn't race the four-cylinders this year?
We picked up a couple slingshots the last couple years, and they raced against each other with those. But then early this year, we ended up, I think it was later last year. We got her the last junior race. She ran the junior race, and then realized we were going to switch to that. So we got rid of her car, and we ended up. He ran a few slingshot races this year. And, we kind of had to wait till he was old enough to do the four-cylinder. So he ended up, King of the Green was his first race. And
that's a way to start.
Yeah, but he did good. I think there was
10 years old, biggest race of the year. They said
5 or 6 of them. He ended up winning. So in his first race, but it was great to see. They're both amped up for the year. And
where do you keep all these race cars at?
A little everywhere.
Yeah.
Right now I have them all piled up behind the garage. They're all tarped up. I have one over at somebody else's house in the garage, and so
that's a good thing about Pennsylvania. You can store tons of crap everywhere.
Yeah, not get in trouble for it. Now, what about getting them to the racetrack? How do you get them to the racetrack?
Well, week to week, could be a challenge.
Yeah. We have the same challenge.
I'm about an hour from Evergreen. There was King of the Green. We ended up having 3 or 4 cars there, and that was 3 trips back and forth, and another one the day of, and it was rough. But this year, Jason doesn't mind if I leave cars there. So if we have a car 4-cylinder that doesn't really need any.
I tell you what, I don't know if you ever heard on our podcast, but we talked about it one time. I raced out in Kansas one time, and when we got out there early. The race was on Saturday. We got out there like on Thursday or something like that. And we pulled up on the track, and there was already race cars there. Like, why is there race cars here? What they did out there is you bought your pit spot, like Evergreen does. You buy your pit spot. You're allowed to leave your car right in your pit spot. You know what I'm saying? Like, your pit spot was yours. Like,
right.
People would just leave their cars right there,
Yeah. I mean, I used to do that back years ago when I went back 4-cylinder racing. We had 4 cars, that Larry Spencer, and them were racing for us, and there was no reason. With the 4-cylinders, they're all just stock cars.
Yeah, you're not going to take it home and work on it.
Throw a tarp on them. As long as they were still running, we came back again.
I'm a little luckier than you. I'm only about 25 minutes from Allstate, not even like 20 minutes away. So there's times I got to run the car up, drop it off, and then, go back and race. But you're an hour away, so that's quite a bit of a. I mean, Steve Tito only lives right around the corner from the racetrack.
Yeah.
He's dump a couple in his yard. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, Jason's a good guy. He lets us sit him there, and anytime I need to get in, he's there almost every day of the week. If I have to go down, even if I work on him at the track. But it works out good. And we also this year went down to Mahoning a few times. Kenzie got a few races in down there.
I think I got like 26 or 24th in points, but I wrecked almost every week.
Maybe keep her away from Mahoney.
Well, Mahoning's all a different ball game.
Now we just had Dino on from Mahoney Valley. They have 2 different type of 4-cylinder races, and I was glad he was here to explain it. The Pro 4s are actually rear-wheel drive cars,
right?
Yeah.
And then the hobby stocks are the front-wheel drive cars.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Now I believe they're doing away with the Pro 4s this year.
Oh, really?
Is that what he said?
No, they're on their schedule.
Oh, are they? Okay.
Yeah,
I know they had talked about it. I wasn't sure.
The only division they were doing away with was the dirt asphalt modifieds,
Okay.
the DA modifieds.
And their Pro 4s have been there
forever.
For a long
when
time.
I was a kid, I remember seeing them racing Pintos up
Yeah.
there and stuff. And now they race Pintos and Mustangs.
But then you look at it where there's not a lot of those parts left anymore.
They're getting hard too, yeah.
So, that car count isn't great, but, their front-wheel drive hobby stocks are, a consi every week. And, it was exciting being her first year and going there and racing in through the consi. And, she had a couple rough weeks. That concrete wall is tough.
I bent my frame twice there.
And those cars don't have much of a frame.
Yeah.
I remember one of the weeks, Peyton Arthofer, she was running for points. Like, she was up there, like, I think 3rd or 4th or something. And she didn't qualify because her car broke, so I let her drive my car.
That's nice.
Because, I wasn't running for points or anything.
Yeah, they have a little different deal where the car qualifies. So Kenzie qualified into the feature.
But let her drive it.
Yeah, something happened with Peyton. She broke in the heat, I believe, and didn't qualify. So she was able to hop in Kenzie's car because her car was qualified.
Cool. Now, is there anything rules-wise you got to change to go from Evergreen to Mahoney Valley with the Mackenzie's car?
No, because we actually have to weigh more at Evergreen.
So you're at a disadvantage when you go to Mahoney.
Yeah, because Mahoney has just a base weight and everybody's the same.
Yeah.
Because obviously motor's not a big deal.
What about tires?
Now this year or previous year we did. They were American Racing. Now they're back to Hoosiers.
Okay.
And most likely running the same tire. I know.
We did talk to Dino about that he said they are going to try to run the same tires as Evergreen. This way, if their Mahoney Valley guy wants to go to Evergreen, they can at least use their tires in practice. You know what I'm saying?
It was tough because, I wanted to keep a set of American Racers mounted up, and I didn't want to dismount, Hoosiers and, just keeping them all. This will just make it so much easier.
We have the same thing if we want to bring our factory stocks up to Evergreen. You guys run the 790 Hooters, or we run the 850s. Of course, we're welcome to run the 850s because the 7090s are a little bit better, but 7090s ain't that great of a tire, and the 850s ain't that great of a tire.
Right.
So we're both on a pretty bad tire, so we might as well just run them, you know what I'm saying? But, yeah, I definitely plan on bringing Nancy. At least Nancy wants me to bring her up and run 5 factory stock races up there where I don't bring a car and I actually – work with her, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Well, I don't have much time to help her because I'm busy with my own stuff. I mean, I work on her car, but I can't sit and watch her and say your line's wrong, you're doing this wrong, because I got to go out and practice and stuff too. So we definitely plan on seeing you guys up there this year. I appreciate your time coming over here, Mackenzie. We wish you well. We wish your brother Micah well too. I hope he does good, and I hope he sticks with it and likes it. It's great that you guys are a family in racing that race a lot together. Any other sports you play in school or?
Not really. Mainly focused on racing.
Really?
Yeah.
How about your brother? Does he play any other sports?
He plays basketball right now.
Okay. Which is a good sport because it's not during racing season. You know,
Yeah.
you concentrate on that.
Yeah,
so
that helps out.
I don't want to juggle 2 sports, like have to go for weekends and then miss
we
races.
got a lot of kids down by us. Wrestling's real big. High school wrestling's real big down by us. And they wrestle because it doesn't interfere with their racing whatsoever.
Right.
And they like it. They say it makes them physically stronger and in better shape for when the racing season comes around.
Well,
Right.
we do the go-karting leagues at Lehigh
Yeah,
Lehigh
That's
Valley.
starting to get big. When I was up Maine racing, all those people in New Hampshire, they all had go-kart racing leagues indoors up there. We don't have nothing like that.
Yeah, we go down to Lehigh Valley Grand Prix in Allentown, and
It's fun.
you spend a day there, your arms
Josh,
don't work
that's
out.
the
Are we
place-
all going to go race the go-karts over there then?
She would kill us, man. She weighs nothing.
And that's another thing. We'll go down to Lehigh. They have the 500 lap race.
That's what I was just telling him.
We do that every
we
year.
do a podcast for the Daytona 500 at a local bar down by us, so we can't go to that. But every year for the Daytona 500, they have a 500.
Yeah, it starts at 8 or 9 in the morning, and we've done it for a few years now. And I used to do it myself on a team. Once they were old enough, they're on the team now.
It's a team of 4 or something, isn't it?
Yeah, you could have 2 to 5.
2 to 5.
And
Okay.
we'll always have 5 of us, and we'll split it up and have fun. But it's fun because now on the pro division there's a base weight, but on the amateur division there's no weight. So, my son is 75 pounds, and he's out there. Kyle Lick is out there on a team. Marco Andretti, he has been running. It's
cool.
the
I always looked
500
into it, but we always have the River Rock show to
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
It's pretty expensive though, isn't it? Like $500 to enter or something like that? Or?
Well, yeah, and that's why you do 5 people. It's $100 a person,
right.
so
Yeah.
it's not bad.
And is it a time thing or a lap thing?
It's a lap. Now it's a lap thing. 500 laps for that one. Now they have the Turkey Bowl and Thanksgiving, and that's usually a
Like
3 or 4
I think
hours.
It's 4 hours, and last time I had to run 40 minutes straight. that felt like 4 hours.
I've never
Yeah,
been
she has her one uncle he's a little out of shape, so he went out for a second run and only made 10 minutes before he was exhausted.
Put her back in there.
Put her back in, and she ran the last almost 40 minutes, and I know it's hard. You get past 20 minutes on that, and it's hard.
Your arms are feeling it.
I've never been there.
It wasn't just my arms; my back really hurt though.
Yeah.
It's bumpy.
Yeah.
Is it bumpy, the track?
It's not bumpy, but you're sitting in that hard plastic seat.
Yeah, right.
And it's a one-size-fits-all kind of seat,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
she being smaller is probably getting bounced around a lot more.
It's live.
It's definitely something I looked into. I wanted to do like an RPM podcast team where me, Josh, and Nancy go and do it. You know what I'm
it's
saying?
live
We
pit
can do
stops.
Millville. They
Yeah.
do stuff at Millville like that.
Yeah, but I just figured it was in the off season. It's indoor. It's,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
you know what I'm saying? I thought it'd be something fun to do in the winter. You know.
Yeah, and like I said, it's funny. Here these kids are 10 and 12, and they're out there racing against Marco Andretti in a go-kart.
Yeah.
Yeah. The newer carts have belts where they buckle across, and like when you tighten them, they come loose. Sometimes when you're racing, but like I like the older carts because they go over your head and they don't loosen at all.
Just gotta keep pulling on them every once in a
Yeah.
while.
Straight away.
Yeah.
So you got 5 race cars. You go kart racing. Son plays basketball. When do you have time to do all this vinyl work and wrapping that you
Well, basically, if my car's not done by February, I don't have a car for the start of the season because between February and May, it's
Like
With
a
the
bunch of
road-
cars
it's a tight
wrapped.
schedule. And not only that, I can't get a car in my garage because I have cars
How
coming
did
going.
you start the vinyl business, the graphics business? How did you get involved in that?
I was actually, my dad raced modified. It was around 99, 2000. He used to have a guy come and he said, hey, you should start doing this. And
Yeah.
I was actually, I went to a Votech school in graphic arts and then went to college for graphic arts. So, I kind of had the graphic part of it down. So
Now, everything you ever done was on the computer. Have you ever done stuff like freehand paint or anything?
no, I never got into any painting. It was all, I'm not saying I'm not good at painting.
Yeah.
I can do a straight line, but I just never wanted to get into the
Nobody
paint.
does it anymore anyway,
Yeah.
so what's the difference? All right,
Yeah.
that's great. I really appreciate you guys coming on, and I wish you guys luck this year. And then maybe during the year you can call in. You can always call on the podcast and give us an update on how you guys are doing.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
thanks for
feel
coming
free
on.
to post
All
on the page or the Evergreen Facebook page and anything like that. Just keep in touch.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for coming
Sounds
on.
good.
Thank you.
Thanks.